Na kama kwa ukweli wale ambao waliongea kama unachoka na familia hii, unachoka na familia hii, sasa ni nafasi sijui ya nani, basi kama hiyo ndiyo thinking ama logic, hata mimi naweza nisimame hapa basi niseme kuna jamii tu mbili za Kenya ambazo zimetawala, labda ni nafasi ya jamii nyingine pia kutawala. Au ni namna gani jameni? Au ni namna gani? Au ni namna gani? Au ni namna gani? Jamii za Kenya ni mingi.
Well, that's the president, but what did the deputy president say? He spoke yesterday. Listen.
Na wakati mimi niliamua ya kwamba nitamuunga mkono Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta awe rais wa 4 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, watu wengi wakiwemo wale walikuwa mazishi jana waliniambia ya kwamba hakuna vile wewe unaweza kuunga mkono Uhuru Kenyatta kwa sababu yeye alikuwa eti ni Mkikuyu kama Mwai Kibaki ambaye alikuwa ofisini. Lakini niliwaeleza siku hiyo na ninawaeleza hata na leo ya kwamba niliunga mkono Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta sio kwa sababu ya kabila yake, sio kwa sababu alikuwa anawakilisha kabila yake, ni kwa sababu mimi na yeye tuliketi chini tukakubaliana kwa sera ya kuweka maendeleo Kenya hii ya barabara na reli na kuunganisha stima na kujenga technical training college na kuweka maji katika taifa letu la Kenya, ndio Kenya iwe bora kuliko vile ilivyokuwa wakati huo. Nataka nirudie, hatuwezi kurudi katika siasa ya ukabila. Kenya hii itapiga hatua ya kwenda mbele. Kila kiongozi, kama unatafuta MCA, kama unatafuta mjumbe ama governor ama senator ama women rep ama rais, usitafute uongozi kwa sababu ya kabila yako. Hauwezi kuwa kiongozi eti kwa sababu unawakilisha kabila yako. Tafuta uongozi kwa sera na agenda yale utafanyia Wakenya. Wakenya watachagua sera, sio kabila. Na mimi nataka niwapatie free advice wale wote ambao wanaota ndoto eti watatembea na kabila yao, eti watatuuzia ati wao wana represent kabila yao, ya kwamba Wakenya wamechanuka na Wakenya wanataka kujua sera ni gani, ideas uko nazo, kama uko na track record ndio waweze kukuchagua. So mimi nawauliza, kwa sababu nasikia sasa tumeanza tena eti kurudi nyuma kuongea mambo ya makabila. Sisi wote, mimi William Ruto nikiweko, tunatafuta uongozi sio kwa sababu ya kabila yako ama kwa sababu unawakilisha kabila yako, ni kwa sababu either uko na sera, uko na mpango, ama kama huna, basi wananchi hawa watajua vile wataamua.
All right, so that's the deputy president and the president there, of course, speaking differently, but all the same. Many of them at a given point of time will be speaking about the same thing. But what have we come to as a country? And you've been itching to respond to what has been happening. What's your take?
I think today is the lowest and the saddest moment on television history, because we have degenerated to the point that we are talking about tribes. Listening to Governor Mutua, whom I respect very highly, is beginning to talk and say that his community has not benefited, that his community has not been in power. We are beginning to talk about our individual communities, but the saddest part is that the person who started this conversation of ethnicity, which we had put behind after the 2010 Constitution, is none other than the head of state. The head of state stirred up ethnic violence at Mudavadi's mother's funeral, which was wrong, and Kenyans should hold him to account for that.
How violent is that?
When he stirred up ethnic hatred It is clear within the definition of ethnic hatred has set out in Section 13 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act.
But you never,
Even if you
you never asked one group to attack another one?
I gave you another. No, you've not read the definition. The definition is when you make utterances that are likely in whatever circumstances to stir up ethnic hatred. That is what the definition of ethnic hatred. So if you listen to his speech, by all definition, and I'm going to write an article about it, that is what he did. Even if you listen to the way that he delivered his message, it was extremely unpresidential. And I am saddened because that is my head of state whom I voted for and believed in. Even you listen to the way he put it. He said, if you're saying that there is that only one family has been in power, then I can also say, hata mimi, those are his words. Therefore, he was daring us that I can also incite people to go against your position. I don't expect a head of state to say that. The head of state is a symbol of unity. The head of state is supposed to speak exactly the way that Deputy President spoke just now. That when you explain to people and inspire them for them to believe in what you want to deliver for Kenya. When you, Governor Mutua says that his region or his ethnic community.
No, I never talked about my ethnic community.
You said you have not been in power.
No,
you even
said yes,
yes. Allow me to finish. You will have a chance to respond. You said that we have not been in power, we are marginalized, or etc. and so on.
The rest
and
of the
we reminded you that the deputy president had come from your community. But nevertheless, I think Governor Mutua, I want to remind you, and I want to remind Kenyans, that before the 2010 constitution, that used to be the case. That when a head of state came from a certain region, they developed their region. And therefore, Kenyans found that that was wrong. Hence the reason why devolution was introduced and entrenched in our constitution, so that each region will develop at the same time as other regions. So the issue of marginalization on account of who is the head of state is irrelevant. It does not matter which community the head of state comes from today, because your county will get the amount of money as calculated in the formula, which is a flat formula that doesn't allow anybody to have an advantage by the Commission of Revenue Allocation. We have the equalization fund so that we make sure that those regions that had been marginalized because of the nature of our politics at that time changes. Right. So the issue of anybody being marginalized has been cured by devolution. The issue of inclusivity for every part of Kenya has been resolved by devolution. And it will take me to the other point. And I'm hoping...
Before I go to the next point, allow me to bring in Honorable Pio one day, because...
I need to finish
I'll
this
allow you.
point.
I'll allow you an opportunity, because he's been quiet for quite a bit of time.
But I haven't had an equal chance, actually.
I'll
just finish one point.
Honorable Boss, I'll give you time. Honorable Pio, so when you listen to this conversation, should the president have an opinion on this sort of politics and what he says, or what he said on Saturday? How should it be taken? Because it is being interpreted by different quarters as what Honorable Boss here says, that are inciting ethnic hatred.
Stirring up ethnic hatred.
First, I have inly to both and this deep speak. I can conclude that the deputy president is totally out of order. Because from his speech yesterday, the deputy president seems to be answering the president. He seems to be talking at the president, who is his boss. In civilized democracies, what the best thing you should have done is to take a walk, really, and say, I can't stay any longer in this, because I've differed with you fundamentally. But to answer back the president in the manner he did is totally unacceptable. Having said that, the deputy president, again, is speaking from both sides of the mouth. And why do I say this, Sam? It is the deputy president who has been leading a campaign of hustlers versus the dynasties, of hustlers against the dynasties, which in itself is discrimination. Is discrimination. And then he's supporting now to say that what the president said amounts to ethnic hate or discrimination. It is not. The Constitution itself, the 2010 Constitution, sir, talks of ethnic inclusivity. And the president did not say that now a Kikuyu and a Kalenjin should never be elected president. What he was saying is that we should be considerate that in this country we have got more than 47 or so ethnic groups, and that each one of them should have equal chance of becoming president. That's what he's saying. Mm-hmm. That doesn't amount to discriminating against the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin. It doesn't. You see, however much one want to spin it. But the most important thing, Sam, and I've had my friend and colleague Gladys Boss say that the issue of discrimination, of exclusivity has been cured by evolution. It is not true. It's not true. What we have is a step in the right direction through devolution. But the fact is that we still have an extremely powerful presidency, even under the current constitution. The 35% or so he's talking about is what fraction of the total percentage of the resources we have in the country. Mm-hmm. And therefore, there's going to be a clamor, a continued clamor for the presidency by individuals and by ethnic groups, which is also healthy in my view. Okay?
And Honorable Pio, when you listen to the president and now you're saying that the deputy president should actually take a walk, do you feel that the president is in charge as he says, or should he do as Francis Atwolo was advising, crack the whip?
I don't want to appear to be advising the president. And in fact, I am not privy to the happenings within Jubilee. As you know, I am in ODM, which is my party. But what I know, as a Kenyan, whose president is one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, mm-hmm. who is deputized by one William Ruto, is that the country cannot progress if the top leadership, that is the president and his deputy, are not in tune, are not in sync. We have a paralysis of government which affects service delivery to the Kenyans. Mm-hmm. And this has to be sorted out. We know the president has got no power to sack the deputy president under the constitution. We also know it may be difficult to impeach the deputy president because of the numbers in parliament. But the deputy president has a conscience that if he's not able to work with this president, then he can take over. That's what I'm saying. And I also want to revisit another issue here, Sam. Mm-hmm. We are being told that the BBI is distracting people from the core issues, from the priorities, okay? Which is the economy and so on and so forth. I want to remind you, Sam, and everybody else who listens, who cares to listen to me, that the Jubilee government had a whole 5 years, from 2013 to 2017, to execute its mandate as a governing power. During that period, there was no BBI. I'm sure you know that. So what made it difficult for the Jubilee administration, under the leadership of both the president and the deputy to implement his manifesto? So therefore, the issue of BBI is basically an excuse. The fact of the matter is that the country requires direction. And I've also been told that those who want to lead Kenya as individuals are not as tribal grouping. That may be true. Mm-hmm. But let me remind Kenyans that in the first term of the Jubilee administration, which was essentially a co-presidency between the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, we are aware, and I've seen this circulating all over the social media, that both the president and his deputy had nominees to the cabinet. Mm-hmm. What did the president do? The deputy president, on his part, nominated entirely from one ethnic grouping, the ethnic group that he belongs to.
Is that factual, Honorable Opio?
Names. We have the names, Sam. If time allows, we can name them.
Name them.
Can Kenyans know this? So don't go to the platform and start misleading Kenyans. Yes, that you are some saint.
Honorable Pio,
Honorable Pio, ethnic inclusivity.
Just a moment, as you talk about ethnic inclusivity, I would want you to substantiate a claim that you made, because the first cabinet of President Kenyatta was appointed by President Kenyatta. The names may have been read together with the deputy president, but which names would you attribute to be purely picked by the deputy president on ethnic basis?
Sam, I don't want to really engage in hair splitting. No. The fact is that
you made the claim, substantial.
First cabinet, how many Kalenjins were in it? out of the total number?
You tell me. You've been counting.
It's for you to research, Sam. So what I'm saying, Sam, is that we cannot continue to bury our heads in the sand like the proverbial ostrich. I am also not disputing what Kanata is saying, but I'm against the manner in which he is saying. Okay? All of us actually are politicians and we are representative of people. We meet our constituents every now and then. Okay? Even now I'm in the countryside. The fact of the matter is that there is a better way to pass a message, particularly to your seniors. Okay? You can advise your senior, you can advise your party leader, you can advise your president.
Okay.
But in which you do it matters a lot.
All right, Honorable Pio Wandai, I've asked you a question to substantiate on the claim that some of the names that were picked, specifically by the Deputy President, their main qualification was their tribe. You did not respond, so I'll just say those are your claims. And get back to the conversation to listen to one Honorable Raila Odinga. I'll ask you the question. Honorable Raila Odinga, as he spoke about the narrative that is being used by William Ruto and his team as they go around the country.
Miaka moja, miaka mbili, miaka saba, miaka nane. Alafu nikatoka kule nikawa waziri mkuu wa taifa hii. So it is possible to come from nothing and be something. Kwa nini naambiwa ati mimi hasa mimi nitoka kwa ufukara? Hiyo ni nini? Takataka.
All right, so that's the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, of course, speaking about the narrative that has been used by your team. But Honorable Boss, you've been, there's something you wanted to add, but I want to ask you this question because we live in the reality, the unfortunate maybe thing in this country that ethnic mobilization is very strong when it comes to running for office, and especially at the top level. Even the coalitions, as you look at them, it's based on ethnic arithmetic. So how do we get out of this by facing the challenge head on?
You know, I think where Kenyans began to move away from is when we have one political party, ODM, that is said to be, you know, leaning is a Luo Nyanza party. Then you hear people saying that the coast region is a ODM zone, even though, you know, may not necessarily be so today. But if you look at the development of Jubilee at the beginning, when TNA was folded, which was seen as a Central Kenya party, and URP, which was seen as a Rift Valley party, when the two merged, the talk was, and that's why the slogan was Tuko Pamoja, it was to say we want to put an end to parties that are developed along ethnic lines and begin to have a truly national party. And that is exactly what Jubilee is. And that's why you find that Jubilee has... Sorry?
Is or was?
We still have sitting members of parliament and governors. So that's why we still talk as existing now. And if you look at the persons elected on a Jubilee ticket, it is from across the country. And also, and when you see people moving now to talk about the hustler movement, the hustler movement is not based on a tribal, it's not a tribal movement. It is a movement of saying that we want to begin to focus on the majority of Kenyans who are on the lower cadre of the economic pillar in the country, and that we want to begin to ensure that they have an opportunity and that there is, as Kamala Harris, the US Vice President-elect, said that work is not about a paycheck. It's about the dignity of work. And that is why we say kazi ni kazi, boka ni boka. It does not matter what I do for a living. It does not matter what I do for a living.
That's a slogan for a political party.
Yes, but I'm just saying, but that's something that resonates with Kenyans. And when we talk about that, we are saying that all Kenyans want to be entitled to a job. The challenges that we are having at the moment in the country. Let me cut you short.
I'm confused because you say kazi ni kazi, if you allow me to say it, but you're a member of Jubilee Party.
I'm talking about the way the country is moving now. There is a movement, and we all are alive to it, that people are beginning to say that we want a government in future that will be able to look at the ordinary citizens and how they earn a living, and ensure that they are empowered sufficiently to be able to undertake their work. We are talking about when we have the hawkers on the streets being beaten by the city council askaris, rather than be provided with a space where they can undertake their trade with dignity and be respected for it. We are talking, and when this conversation began, because the BBI process was talking about 5 seats, top seats in the country. It was not talking about the 16 million Kenyans who are in the informal sector and don't have a livelihood. And because we are discussing, and the biggest point we are trying to make today, let's move away from talking about ethnicity, but instead talk about the ordinary citizen who is the majority of Kenyans. And because the others had an opportunity to comment on some of the statements of the president, like Governor here said, that the president said, when you see a lion that's been rained on, it doesn't mean that it is a cat. And I think Governor Mutua said, it means things are tough, you know. That therefore agreeing that the president can feel that the rain is beating him and beating Kenyans.
Do you feel
and
he's
so
in charge?
when he says, when the head of state says that he knows where he's going and that he's in control, the question I would be asking as a Kenyan and on behalf of Kenyans is, does he know where our economy is going? Does he know that as soon as we go back to parliament, we are being asked to increase the debt ceiling from 9 trillion, which we increased last year, to another 12 trillion shillings? Does he know that over 2 million Kenyans have lost their jobs? Does he know that our health workers are on strike? Does he know that people are dying of COVID? So does he know that our children are learning under trees as opposed to the laptops that he had promised? Does he know that 36
You mean
teachers,
the one that they had promised?
36 teachers,
now that you know
36
that,
teachers
what should he
are
do?
dead as we speak? Does he know that Kenya is struggling to pay its international
What
loans?
should he do?
So when you tell me I know where I am going as president, please, Mr. President, tell me where Kenya is going, because that's the question we're asking.
Okay. Honorable Gachagua, because...
And lastly, as he speaks about inclusivity of all ethnic groups, 1/3 of the cabinet is from his ethnic group. So why is it that why then does he start implementing what he speaks? So that's why I don't believe his statement when he says that only 2 ethnic groups have ruled Kenya. He knew that in 2013. He should not therefore have run for office. So let us stop it. I know I respect the president. He is my party leader, but it is important for us to point it out to him that let us not deceive Kenyans. Kenyans love you, but don't make it hard for them to do so.
Okay, all right, Honorable Boss, you said that 1/3 of the cabinet comes from the president's ethnic group. We'll be fact-checking that.
I can give you the names.
But as you
Muya,
do...
Kobia, Musheru, Kagwe, Sicily, Mashari, and the Attorney General, Kihara Kariuki.
But Kobia and the president do not share the ethnic group.
Sorry?
It's unfortunate that you have to have this conversation, but Kobia and the president do not come from the same community. But all the same, what role should ethnicity play in the coming election, having had a history of ethnic mobilization when it comes to coalitions and alliances?
Thank you, Sam. First and foremost, let me tell Mheshimiwa Wandai that the deputy president and the president and Jubilee was one until the handshake came in. And some of us warned that the bringing of the ODM people into government will create problems. It has come to pass. Number 2, I think it was wrong.
Are they in government?
Oh, yeah. I have seen ministers going to brief Raila Odinga at Capitol Hill. What else is being in government? What are they going to brief him about? I don't think they are going to discuss personal things. Number 2, it is wrong, for whatever it is worth, to, in public, call the hustler movement and the hustlers takataka. I think it's in very bad taste. These hustles, however little they are, even if you are up there and you think they are nothing, I think calling them takataka in public is totally distasteful. Ethnicity has been our problem. And when we folded our parties, 14 parties to form Jubilee, we were dealing with ethnicity. Some, you know where we are coming from. Prior to 2007, there was profiling one community, it was 41 versus 1. And you know where it led us to. The president himself, the deputy president, bore the brunt of ethnic animosity. They went to The Hague. 8 years down the line, we want to start a conversation of 40 versus 2. I think this is the lowest we could ever go. And I'm very embarrassed myself. I'm actually feeling very bad about it. That after 41 versus 1, we are now starting a conversation about 40 versus 2. You are telling me, Sam, my son, Keith, who is a doctor, who would want to be president one day, should not be because Uhuru Kenyatta and Jomo Kenyatta and Kibaki were presidents, Why would he be defranchised because somebody else from his community was president? I mean, we are thinking very low, you know? You are telling both Cholet here that she should never aspire to be president of this republic because Daniel Arap Moi was president. I mean, we can't go that way. In any case, it is very clear, the constitution is very clear how you elect a president. Above 18, a degree, this and that and that. There is nowhere in those requirements where his ethnicity is a question. In any case, what my boss, the president, was alluding to and giving us a possibility, I don't know how he would implement it. Would you bar the Kikuyu people and the Kalenjin people from contesting as presidents? Or would he now start a campaign against any of the candidates from those areas? I don't know how he would want to go about it. But I think the discussion that was in Sabatia is the lowest. We shouldn't go back there. And when I listen, you know, when I listen to my children, you know, this whole talk about communities irritate them. They can't understand what you are talking about, you know, and I know my sons came with some girlfriends and I asked them where they are from, and they looked at me and they told me, stop it, you know, they can't understand. So our president, head of state, is a symbol of national unity. He has sworn to, you know, protect the constitution, and he has sworn to uphold the national unity. The talk of ethnic profiling cannot come from him, you know, and probably he didn't mean what came out. If he didn't, then he needs to clarify, because it is in bad taste. And you know, Dr. Mutua is here. He has come to my ward where I am born and campaigned for a candidate and put a very strong show. I would want him to come there and tell the people of Rugoro ward that they shouldn't produce a president. He would be chased away. I mean, even that talk that was in Sabatia, that talk that was in Sabatia cannot take place in Kericho. It cannot take place in Kiambu. It cannot take place in Nyeri. It cannot take place in Sabatia. I would want the people. I would want the people who are talking there.
Portray your people as those that chase people away.
No, I'm saying, if you come and tell the people simply because Uhuru was president, you people should never produce a president. They will chase you away. I mean, you cannot tell people that. It is wrong. We are saying Dr. Mutua here wants to be president.
Yes.
I don't think when he prepares his manifesto, he'll have a chapter on the combination. I think he'll be telling people what he can do to turn this country around, his credentials, his vision for the entire country. I don't think he'll have a topic somewhere saying that I want to be president so that I can take care of the Kamba community. I don't think he will.
My question is,
because if he did, he only get votes from that area. He will not get from elsewhere.
Let's make progress here, because Honorable Boss, you said that a third of the cabinet comes from the president community. From my tabulation, it appears that he shares ethnicity with 4 cabinet secretaries out of 23. The deputy president shares ethnicity with 4 cabinet secretaries. And the cabinet of 23 members, including the attorney general, has 13 communities represented. I just needed to bring that out. Let's listen to, first, what do you have to say, Dr. Mutua? Because I'm raising the question about ethnic mobilization, because even when the crafting of the Jubilee Coalition of 2013, TNA and URP, those ethnic considerations, the formation of CORD, coalition, and even NASA, those ethnic consideration.
And you have to, if you want to have a
How important will this be in 2022? It's
going to be very important. No, it's not sad. Let's be realistic here. Let me make 5 points, as not just as a governor, but also as the leader of Maendeleo Chapchap Party, which is not a tribal party, unlike others that have started with different ethnic groups and now have to be reconfigured for others. 5 points. You know, what is happening in this country is that we've had 8 years of people clamoring for power. We have to ask ourselves, I look at what is called the hustler movement as a con. It's one of the biggest cons we've ever had in this country. Because what is a hustler movement? It's a movement that is talking about the people who are the have-nots. The people who have nots in this country are everywhere in this country and have not had since independence. Since independence. Now, the people perpetuating the hustler movement have been in power even before the handshake. And their job was to roll back poverty But what have they done? They have spent that time campaigning for office for 2022 instead of ensuring that our people on the ground have resources, have money, and jobs are created.
What are you talking about?
Let me just continue, and I'll make my points very clear. So when I talk about the hustler movement being a con, it is the same language that has been used. You go to the poor that you have made poor. You've been in positions of power to make them rich. You've been in position of power to ensure that they are not there. But you do other things, you are campaigning, and then you go back to the people and you tell them, I am yours. I am with you. You are poor. I can help you. Because you've sustained them in their poverty. Because poor people follow movements very, very easily. Number two, let's have a voice of reason here. I'm not in Jubilee. I'm not in Anita Keleweke. I'm not in your group of Tanga, the so-called Tanga, and all that. Let me be a voice of reason here and speak about the mwananchi on the ground. People want money in their pockets. And Madam Shole, boss, you pointed all the issues that we have on the ground. But where is the development? We have a country that is talking about Uhuru and Ruto. And as far as I'm concerned, neither of them is fit to hold office come 2022. They have had their time. What have they done with their time? They have squandered their time. You asked about the laptops. What happened to the laptops? We should be asking Ruto, what happened to the laptops, not just to Uhuru? What happened to the stadiums? Not just to Uhuru, but also with Ruto. They have squandered their time. They're not fit to hold office after 2022. Kenyans want money in their pockets, and we need a new economic movement. So this brings me to the point that I want to say.
Quickly.
Kenya is ripe for a new brand of leadership that is devolved from the Rutos, the Uhurus, all these other people. We need a new movement. We need a new force. We need people who come out and say, we want to change this country. Not because we are in one brand or the other brand, because we are being boxed. Wakenya wameambiwa either you're on this side or this side. And we are going to come up with a new movement that is going to tell the people of Kenya, you don't have to be in this group or this group. Because we've suffered enough, my friend. And my children cannot suffer the way I have suffered, the way my parents have suffered because of all this. And finally, on the issue of marginalization, I disagree with Mheshimiwa Sholei, boss, about what Uhuru Kenyatta said. What Uhuru Kenyatta said is what is happening on the ground. Mheshimiwa Gachagua is from Mount Kenya. I went to Nyeri, and people in Nyeri were telling me, Mutua, maybe it's your time now. Kikuyus, we've had it. We are willing to share. The Kikuyu on the ground, the Mount Kenya people are not selfish. They are saying we're willing to share Kenya. It doesn't have to be us again. That's what they're telling me. The Mount Kenya business people are very smart. They know that this country needs stability. They're willing to share. They're willing to say it doesn't have to be us all the time.
Okay.
And they're not saying that because there's anything wrong with Honorable Gashagua's son being president. They're saying that because there comes a time when you say, for the sake of the country, let's create a movement where other people feel they're included. Doesn't mean that you're excluded. You're saying this community has had the opportunity. There's a perception that when you're in power, there's only development in your region. Why don't you have another community to break, the cycle, and then they can come back again? It is good for us. It is a panacea for the country. And that is the reality. They may not feel it because they come from a region that has had the presidency. They may not feel it. They have come from a region that has the presidency. And that's a reality. Okay. Go to the ground. Even the people on the ground know the reality. And that's a reality. It may be bitter. It may not be what we want to hear constitutionally. It may be what I don't like myself because I don't brand myself as a tribalist. But that's a reality on the ground. That's the same way we say include women. Have out of 5 people, have 2 women.
Just
why? Because you don't
Dr.
want it to be a boys club.
Earlier on the conversation, I raised the question whether when someone is elected president, is the presidency for the ethnic community or an individual. And I want us to listen to some leaders that spoke again at the funeral of Mama Hannah Mudavadi, talking about, is it what Alfred Mutua is calling new brand of leadership? Listen.
So today I'm kindly requesting Your Excellency the President and Right Honorable to support Musalia Mudavadi for presidency in 2022.
Until 2022, contract yangu iko na Uhuru Kenyatta. lakini transfer window inaanza kuingia. Na nakuomba kwa hiyo transfer window, ile vitu umenifunza ndogo ndogo ya kuunda chama, kushinda kura, na yule mtu ambaye anakubalika Kenya mzima, ambaye hakuna mtu anamuogopa, ati akishika sasa ataumiza huyu, ataumiza huyu, ataumiza huyu, ni Musalia Mudavadi. So it is because you are acceptable. So my political father utanikubali transfer. Ni sawa? Unipe ruhusa. Juu mimi sijui kurukaruka kwa chama ama chama nyingine.
So tafadhali fanyeni kazi juu chini, uhakikishe kama jamii ya Waluya wameshikana, wamekuja, wamekaa kitu kimoja, and take your rightful place in the political banquet table.
Look at the leaders from that corner. All of them, Your Excellency, let me tell you, are raring to go. They want your seat. I have wanted it before. I really wanted it, and you know I did. But not all these leaders who are here can be. Bring us all together. You are able, you are capacity, and you can.
So, Honorable Opiyo Wandayi, what will it take? Because you can see funerals now becoming opportunities for people to drum up support for certain candidates. What shall we see? What more shall we see before the whistle is blown?
Well, there's really nothing strange about what is happening. Kenyans will always continue to mobilize themselves as elections approach. What is really concerning me, what is really worrying me and many other Kenyans, is that we have got about 17 or so months to the next general elections. And the ruling Jubilee Party is in a state of disarray, which is impacting negatively on service delivery. We have seen a situation where leaders who are in the ruling party are failing to face reality. And unless these issues are addressed head on, we're likely to lose a lot in the remaining very many months, if you ask me. And therefore, what am I saying? We have seen clearly that one faction of the Jubilee Party has formed another party, which they are propagating, which they are marketing, okay? And yet they lack the courage, the moral courage, to say so and to depart from their mother party so that we can have some semblance of sanity and tranquility as we move to 2022. So the point is that the turmoil in Jubilee is impacting very, very seriously on the Kenyan population. And something has to be done about it.
Okay, all right.
Sam.
Yes, go ahead.
There is nothing wrong with people talking about tribes or ethnic groups. I have said so, and I want to repeat it. Because if we attempt to try to put it under the carpet, we shall simply be postponing a problem. It's an issue that must be confronted. And many countries have done so. We must appreciate the fact that this country requires a true sense of inclusivity. And that must start as a discussion on the table. And therefore, the president must be lauded for starting this very, very useful debate. This very, very useful debate. There is no way you are going to hide behind...
Honorable Wandayi, because you come from ODM, what sort of arrangements are you making to prepare for 2022?
As ODM, what we are doing towards 2022 is a matter of strategy, which is ours. It's not meant for the public as we speak, okay? But what we have said openly is that we are currently preoccupied with implementing the constitutional, legal, administrative reforms within the BBI framework. That's our preoccupation now. What we shall do in 2022, we shall cross that bridge once we get there. But what I am saying is that you cannot hide behind the hustler narrative, okay? Which is dividing Kenyans along class lines.
But Honorable Wandayi, do you agree with this?
Get those who are talking about tribes. Yes, that is my point.
Do you agree with the sentiments in Vihiga that it's Musalia time?
I don't want to comment on that because that is a view of certain individuals. And they are entitled to it, really. You know, my party leader is Raila Amolo Odinga.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and if I was to vote for anyone to take over from Kenyatta, I would vote for Raila Odinga. Naturally, you know that. Yes.
Okay. All right, Honorable Boss, what more shall we say ahead of 2022?
I think we want to correct the situation that the discussions about the parties and the vehicles that people will use in 2022 is a normal conversation. If you remember that Mwai Kibaki ran on an NAC ticket, by the end of his first term, going to his second term, he was moving into PNU, which he ran on his second term. Uhuru Kenyatta ran on TNA for his first term. But the conversation about Jubilee ended towards the end of, around this time, that they were going to set up Jubilee and he was moving out of TNA. So there is nothing wrong with beginning to have discussions. Because what people say is, has the current party or the current leadership met the aspirations that they had, that we had? If you remember, 2013 to 2017, we had the highest electrical network through the last mile program since independence, in 5 years. We had the technical and vocational training colleges built. We had devolution entrenched, and we had the health devolution on the issues of agriculture and so on. We had the Beyond Zero program where we say no mother shall die while giving birth. So there was a lot of progress between 2017 up to sometime in 2018. In fact, the progress in Jubilee stopped with the handshake. The moment there was a handshake, and remember the handshake was not with Kenyans. The handshake was two people, and Kenyans must remember that. The other point I want to make, when people make discussions and say it is the turn of this ethnic group, that is not inclusivity. Because we have 42 ethnic groups in Kenya, indigenous, and we also have 2 other ethnic groups, yeah, of British descent and those of Asian descent. So it brings to 44. So if we are going to talk about every ethnic group being represented, let us assume that Governor Mutua becomes president. Then how will that satisfy all the other 42 other tribes remaining?
But is it true there is a question of ethnic exclusion in the country?
No, and that is, you know, people are forgetting. I'm asking everyone to go back to the National Archives and look at the discussions during the constitution-making process in 2010. It was because we were alive to the fact that not every ethnic group, the 42, can be on the table. We then developed devolution and developed the provisions of inclusivity in our constitution and said that we recognize our ethnic diversity. And therefore, that is the reason why you talk about diversity in all appointments. Therefore, it doesn't mean that an ethnic group is represented because they're president. And ethnic groups are represented when you make sure that the cabinet, so that if the president is from one ethnic group, let us make sure that all the other members of the cabinet are also diversified. People who is Attorney General, who is the head of the army, who is at the national, the permanent secretaries, the cabinet assistant secretaries, the directors of heads of corporations, of state corporations, the chairpersons of state corporations. That is how you spread. That is how you undertake diversity. It is not by one position. So putting one person in a position will not satisfy. If Mudavadi becomes president, it is not going to satisfy Mr. Chairman Wendanyi just now, because he also has a candidate. But we must assure people that, one, inclusivity is resolved by the diversity of appointments across the board in government. It is also achieved through diversity in even the Supreme Court, the judiciary, and all other arms of government. It is inclusivity achieved by the leadership even within parliament. And that is possible to achieve, and through devolution, most importantly.
We have just 3 minutes, and we'll split them by first taking a short break. Then I come back with the final remarks from Dr. Mutua and Honorable Rigathi Gachagua as we wind up this discussion.